If you missed your favorite show or interview, visit episodes on our website at theworldtoday.news. Our live shows are also on X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, and Twitch. Now there really is no reason to miss out on anything on theworldtoday.news.
For The World Today, this is James O'Neill. Far-right Ukrainian MP Andrei Parubi, killed in Lviv on Saturday, had long been accused of fueling civil war and extremism. Ex-diplomat Andrei Telizhenko told RT. Parubi, former Rada speaker and Maidan leader, co-founded the neo-Nazi Social National Party and allegedly ordered mass shelling in Donbass. Telizhenko claimed he coordinated sniper fire during the 2014 Maidan coup and covered up the Odessa massacre that killed 42 activists. Linked to the U.S.-based Jamestown Foundation, Parubi was accused of organizing, arming, and transporting militants. Supporters insist he collaborated closely with Western interests. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Tianjin for a 4-day trip to China, beginning with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit hosted by Xi Jinping. The SCO will address security, energy, AI, green development, and adopt a declaration with a 2035 strategy. Putin will then travel to Beijing on September 2nd for talks with Xi on economic and security issues, including Ukraine and U.S. relations. On September 3rd, he will attend World War II victory commemorations and hold about 10 bilateral meetings, including with leaders of India, Turkey, and Iran. The U.S. Commerce Department has revoked special authorizations allowing Samsung, SK Hynix, and Intel to import semiconductor equipment for use in China, forcing them to apply for licenses within 120 days. The decision, published in the Federal Register, ends a verified end-user program that eased licensing burdens. Washington says licenses will permit maintenance but not capacity expansion. Seoul urged stability for supply chains, while Beijing vowed retaliation. The move hit U.S. suppliers Applied Materials, Lam Research, and KLA, whose shares fell amid ongoing U.S.-China tariff tensions. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot declared that Greenland is not for sale during a visit to Nuuk, condemning U.S. President Donald Trump's calls for American jurisdiction over the Arctic territory. Barrot stressed that France and Europe support Greenland's sovereignty and Denmark's autonomy, criticizing Washington's approach as undermining allies rather than fostering global freedom. His remarks followed reports of Trump-linked covert influence campaigns in Greenland and echoed President Emmanuel Macron's earlier rejection of U.S. ambitions. Denmark recently summoned U.S. envoy for talks. Barrot's trip, including a visit to a French naval vessel, underscored European solidarity with Greenland. President Trump announced he will issue an executive order requiring voter ID in all federal elections, repeating his call for paper ballots and limiting mail-in voting to the ill and military. Trump previously ordered proof of citizenship for voter registration, a move partly blocked by courts, with appeals ongoing. He also backs the stalled SAVE Act and state-level GOP redistricting efforts. While critics argue his executive orders exceed presidential authority, Trump says they safeguard against fraud and restore confidence in elections ahead of the 2026 midterms. Newly revised German government data show Mohammed, across 19 spellings, is the most common first name among welfare recipients, with nearly 40,000 entries. Michael, with 24,600, and Ahmad, with 20,600, followed, while Elena was the only female name in the top 10. Germany's unemployment reached 6.4% in August, with over 3 million jobless and 5.42 million receiving benefits, 48% of them foreigners, compared to 19.6% in 2010. The findings fueled debate over migration and integration, bolstering the right-wing AfD party, now Germany's most popular in polls, though classified as an extremist entity by intelligence officials. Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, revealed Reform Council will fight to expel immigrants.
But you won't tell us where you're going to put them.
They will be remote. That's what we will clearly say.
This has been James O'Neill for The World Today.
If you missed your favorite show or interview, visit episodes on our website at theworldtoday.news. Now there really is no reason to miss out on anything on theworldtoday.news.
And welcome. It's a beautiful day in Sydney, as you can see. A lovely day on the Gold Coast. It's a magnificent lunchtime here in Australia. And wherever you are, whether you're in Japan, which is midday there, whether you're in Bali, which is whatever time you want it to be there, just go roll your own, apparently, and then you'll just be where you want to be. Anyway, before we get into our guest, There's a few things that have been bugging me and that have brought to my attention thereof, such as a long-running native title fight. This is in Australia, a title fight affecting more than 3,500 properties on Brisbane's Bayside has reached the federal court, with the South East Queensland Council fighting a feared takeover of its sporting grounds, cemeteries and other recreational areas. And what it will mean is that the native title will say that if you're not part of that tribe, you can't go to, say, the parks on the beach, the sporting grounds, wherever there's a lump of ground. Many are saying also this is just the start of other things to happen, such as if you have your own private home. If it's on a sacred piece of ground, which is anywhere they've walked on, basically, then they will own it. And they do. Look at Ayers Rock. That's a good one. Ayers Rock. We've got to call it Uluru. And by the way, you can't take photos of Uluru, otherwise you'll be fined, because it's sacred. And I understand that we have sacred spaces for Aboriginals, and I understand that. But we also have sacred places for Catholics, Muslims, Buddhists, and I don't see any, especially with the Christian religion, I don't see any blocking of anyone coming in there. Come in. It's the getting out of. You might have trouble because they can lock the doors. You're not leaving until you donate to the plate. But seriously, the native title fight around Australia is being ramped up, paid by, for example, this one in Brisbane, $7.1 million is paid for legal fees for they're called the Quandamooka people. That's the traditional owners of that land. Yet if you have to defend it, you have to find that yourself. And many are saying that they find out through the media or just word of mouth or a letter that pops up, and then you have maybe a month or 2, 3 months to reply and put your case. So we see that the federal government under Anthony Albanese, his government is financing these claims to make sure that you know your place in life because, well, you're a white fella. I thought we're all Australians. And it doesn't mean we don't disrespect the Aboriginals, which we do, and I think they were done badly by, but it is Australia. And we are here to look after our area for a short space of time. So, but we'll do more this week on that one because it is very serious. It means that there are 2 classes, or actually there are 3 classes in Australia. Those classes are, I think anyway, number 1, the Aboriginals, 2, the immigrants, and down the bottom, if they could find someone in between 2 and 3, they would, are the rest of us. And that is just terrible, not how you treat your own citizens. But guess what? They got voted in second time round. How stupid are we? Now, in the US, Marjorie Taylor Greene has vowed never to be silent about the millions of COVID vax-related deaths or injuries. We'll play this video. This is a guy called Ernest Ramirez, and he's testifying on the death of his 16-year-old son. And have a listen to this, because FEMA, what are they doing there? But FEMA asked him to change the cause of death to COVID to help him financially. I mean, that stinks, doesn't it? Cam, can you play Pfizer Vax?
The Pfizer vaccine, April 19th, 2021. 5 days later, while playing basketball, Junior suddenly he collapsed and died right in front of his best friend. The paramedics worked on my son, but they couldn't do anything about it. The day my world ended, Junior's autopsy showed that he had myocarditis. Junior was a healthy boy who loved playing baseball, video games with his friends. enjoyed the outdoors. He loved fishing. He was the best son a father could ask for. He was my best friend. But when Junior was born, the world changed to the best for me. I took role of being his father with so much pride. He was the center of my life. We were not rich, but everything we had was enough to get us through. When the news came out, when the media and the government, that there was safe for an effective vaccine, we were told that everyone needed it to get the vaccine for our health and to stop the spread. I decided to do the right thing and keep my son safe. This turned out to be the worst decision in my life. Suddenly my son was dead, and I was planning his funeral. 7 months later, after FEMA contacted me and asked me to change the cause of death to my son to COVID so that they could help me financially, I told them I would never do that. I would definitely never disrespect my son in that way.
It's terrible, isn't it? That's the just the vax that everyone was encouraged to get because it was safe and effective. In his son's case, it was sudden and unexpected. And to think that FEMA asked him to change cause of death to COVID, which would help him financially, well, that's really bad. Now, the CDC, the ones that were looking after all Americans, and its direction was taken note of by the rest of the world. The CDC, one of the directors, we've heard about this director that he resigned in protest from the CDC. Cam, can you just throw up his picture, please? The video. Director. Just fantastic. Kill it, Cam, if you like. I've had my titillation. But it's terrible. I mean, it's we need to bring back some sort of semblance of normality. But by the way, he was one that was going to tell you how to prevent disease. Also, just ending at the moment, it's Labor Day in the in the US. And part of Labor Day was just, there was a beautiful day, barbecue, shootings, crashing into crowds. I mean, it was just fantastic. Cam, if you could play Labor Day.
Don't get me on that.
So, another beautiful day in the US. I'll talk to Joachim about this shortly, whether he thinks it's disassembling in front of us. And finally, there was a SCO summit in Beijing. Putin was in Beijing. Modi was in Beijing. Erdogan was in Beijing. Shows up his with NATO, but he pops in. Arab states lining up to join. We'll just have a look at some of the people at some of the world leaders at this Shanghai Coordinates Organization. Cam, can you play SCO Summit, please? So there you are. It's all the, not all the world leaders, but a great number of the world leaders. Joachim Hagopian is an independent journalist. Before we get into our shootings at Catholic schools, Joachim, thanks for joining us. How important is the SCO Summit?
I'd say it's pretty important. You're looking at the future of the world when you talk about BRICS and when you talk about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is basically third world and global south with the leaders Russia and China, India, and Iran. So I mean, it pretty much is the adversaries of the West, and their economy is doing better. Their war making capacity is right up there. I mean, Russia is unbelievable with the efficiency of their war making operation. Uh, and Ukraine's going to be over, I believe, this year, hopefully before the winter sets in. Uh, so, when you look at those nations, they're on the rise of being the dominant forces in the world. And then you look at the West, and they're the forces that have been dominant for the last 500 years that are sinking very rapidly. And their leadership leaves much to be desired. They are puppet leaders. They take their orders from City of London, the money changers, the ones that hold the money for all operations on the earth, which means they're behind the wars, they're behind the crash of the economy, they're behind the bioweapon pandemic, fake pandemic, but lethal kill shot. I mean, they're involved in every negative criminal operation on earth, but they have an agenda. They want the West to go down because they see that as their biggest impediment to one world government tyranny. So they figure the West has known freedom, and therefore they might present the most resistance to a one world government takeover, totalitarian, technocratic, uh, So yeah, they're letting them go, and they've been largely responsible for the rise of the Eastern powers, actually.
The Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, someone has said it was the Global South declaring a new world order. I would say that's spot on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they're united, and the West is not united. I mean, look how Trump has picked a fight with Europe and NATO and EU. Not that the EU is you know, any better than Trump. They're both disasters, but yeah. I mean, it is an illustration of the disunity of the West, and then the unity of the East in contrast.
Yeah, I saw a photo of Modi and Putin and Xi, and truly it looked like a relationship made in heaven. One of our guests this morning said it's most likely a temporary relationship because of if you look at China and India, there's still a conflict there. Russia, even though they've had a relationship with India since 1935, really it wasn't until the 70s and 80s that the relationship came back to life with Russia. So still relatively new relationships here between countries, but at least though we are seeing some sort of diplomacy, and you really can't say there's a lot of diplomacy from Donald Trump, can you?
Absolutely not. Yeah, this guy's a bully, a thug, and he just made some kind of weird statement. Not all that weird if you know about him, but he said, "I'm the president. I can do anything I want." I mean, this is the thug that we have, the leader of the free world. So yeah, with a guy like him, there's not going to be unity anywhere around America or the West, because the guy's agenda is to be basically the battering ram that probably begins World War III and crashes the global economy. Everything's set in motion now, and he's going to be the fall guy for the West that's going to basically bring down Western civilization.
Yeah, I played a couple of clips before about the US just a very happy Labor Day there with people driving into crowds and shootings and just normal everyday family murders. It's fantastic. But the US really isn't a spot of bother. And we look at the Minneapolis Catholic school shooting, and it was a terrible, terrible tragedy in Minneapolis. However, tell us more about this. What does this mass shooting have in common with recent similar events?
Well, there's been almost countless mass shootings in America. They're the center of the world for mass shootings, meaning more than one person dies at a time by the same murderer. And the profile of a lot of these, quote, mass shooters in America are young people. uh, they are very troubled, obviously. Uh, and there's a history where we have intel agencies like the FBI, CIA, Mossad that act as handlers of these young, disturbed people. And they have, of course, state sponsored psychiatrists that are in there pumping the big pharma drugs into these people. There are always many warning signs of pathology and trouble ahead when they are in high school, and many times even in middle school. Um, and a couple of the classmates of this uh, person. They calls himself Robin. In the last, what, I think around 1718, he changed his name from Robert Westman to Robin, because he identified as a female. So it's another transgender. Uh, and then they make sure that when they do their shooting, they have all these things that are hot button issues, like in this case, he's writing about, I hate Trump. I want Trump dead. Uh, I hate the Israelis for the Palestine. All the basic hot button issues, so that basically we have Israel and Netanyahu and the Israeli complex, which includes America, by the way, uh, coming down with all their anti Semitism laws and basically criminalizing people that actually criticize Israel for massacring thousands upon thousands of Palestinians. So now we're being criminalized. So the thrust of my article was to basically expose, well, it's got all the markings of another false flag, inside job, and it presses all the hot button issues. So, wouldn't you know it, just like 3, 4 days ahead of this incident on the 27th, Trump's rolling out, okay, we're going to have National Guard troops in 19 states, and there's a law called comitatus law, which separates the military jurisdiction from the police jurisdiction. And and they're not supposed to cross over. Uh, but Trump is using this invasion of America through foreign illegals uh, to bring in troops into, of course, he already started in Washington, D.C. His next job is going to be Chicago. But he announced like 2, 3 days before this incident that he's going to have National Guard troops in 19 states. And you look at some of these states that are on this list for deployment of the National Guard, and they're states that are empty of foreign illegal populations, like Utah, like, like there's a whole bunch. Uh, I can't think of some of the others, but yeah, I mean, they are basically using it as an excuse to declare a national emergency, martial law, and having troops in every city. And so it's essentially, and I put this in the last half of the article, we're moving toward a technocratic surveillance system state where they're doing data processing on every single American citizen now, and they're coming up with lists of people that are violating anti-Semitism laws, putting stuff on the internet that is interpreted arbitrarily as hate speech. And so what they're doing, it's a war against Americans. That's the bottom line here. That's the psyops that's operating right now. Today, it's the Palestinian genocide, and it's get rid of the foreign illegals. But tomorrow, it's getting rid of the dissidents in America, because they're speaking out of turn.
Yeah, I can actually see, and it's a terrifying thought, and the US won't be alone here, but I can see governments ejecting people, whether they're citizens or not, from their particular countries because they're terrible people. How dare they disagree with us? It's just a shocker. But I can see that. And Trump, I mean, he was, and I thought he would have been, and I was speaking to Jen about it, producer and business partner and dear friend, was saying, it's going to be very quiet. Trump's in now, nothing's going to happen. It's like it's on steroids. And I mean, we have so many threats at the moment to our liberties, our free speech, the surveillance and the intrusion into our life, private lives has just gone absolutely nuts. How do we avoid this? Because I don't see how we can, if we want to, for want of a better word, if we want to exist in this in our society. Because if you want to avoid all the not using cash, avoid the cameras, avoid the biometrics, avoid, you have to live in a tree or under a rock. So how do we negate most of the uglies that are being brought in at the moment?
Well, the first point I want to make is every civilization that goes down turns to tyranny to stay surviving. And so that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing America that used to be the beacon of liberty and freedom and the Constitution, which is not practiced or honored or upheld whatsoever now. We're seeing that gone, and we're seeing the destruction of America. And so, of course, tyranny takes over. It's a technocratic, totalitarian, one world government system in the making right now. So, how do we resist this oppressive movement by a handful relative to the number of people on this earth right now? Well, the best course of action is to unite. And I always say locally is the way to go, and then it goes on up from there. If we unite locally, we can unite within state and province, and we can unite behind whole countries and unite behind the world. So I do hope that there is a mobilization effort on the part of all the citizens of the world to unite against the one world government tyranny that the evil ones that are doing all these things have in mind, because they've had this agenda for many years. It used to be the Agenda 2030, but it's now sped up now to the Agenda 2025. They're speeding everything up because they know that the people are waking up and getting pretty pissed off.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Back to our shooter though, he was transgender and mentally ill. Is there a terrible pattern that we should be aware of?
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of mass shootings done by transgender. It's like they use it as a tool where they drug these people and they mind control them. I mean, a lot of MK Ultra was outlawed way back in the 70s. That's the mind control that the CIA operated with. Well, that never left. They've just gone underground and been secretly doing it. But of course, nowadays they have the mass media for mind control. They have the chemtrails, the electro metals that are conductors, and so there's mass mind control in many ways now. But yes, they hone in on troubled teenagers usually, and they start early, in the 15, 16 range, right about that age, and they end up being programmed to become mass shooter killers. And you can look at Sirhan, the assassin of Robert Kennedy. You can look at Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassin of the John F. Kennedy president. And the same thing was being done to these people. They were assassins of important leaders, but the same apparatus is in place to single these individuals out, put them on drugs, put them under mind control, and then have them unleashed in schools. Or I mean, the number of school shootings is gone off the charts now. So yeah, they fit the same pattern, and that's because they have inside job federal handlers that are coordinating the operations.
I don't know whether this, whether you're qualified to comment, but as a layperson, the early education, sex education, for example, in Wales at 3, they're given sex education, and then at 7, it's the bits they left out. So everything by the age of 7, there is no holding back. In most Western countries, they support, by the time you're a couple of years old, you're going to decide whether you're a female or a male and what you have to do to change. Is it, in your own opinion, just as a layperson, is it because of the pressure that is put upon these young people to decide now whether you're a girl or a bloke? Is that sort of pressure, which can really, really mess you up in the head, is that sort of pressure, do you think? I think it's a great deal to blame here, because instead of being a friend and working through issues, easiest thing to do, you're a girl, you're a bloke, you're a guy, we'll make you that. We'll give you all these hormone replacement tablets and get these shots, and before you know it, out with the guillotine, you're going to be one of us. Do you think there's too much pressure at the moment?
Well, of course, there is. They start with the sex education. In America, it sometimes starts in kindergarten. It's so sick. Well, that's another huge part of the problem. And it's also, the same controllers that are involved in the wars are the ones that are involved in social engineering of the younger generations to not sexually know who the hell they are and to be totally dysmorphic, confused about their own sexual identity. And so they have this LGBTQ plus, where they get all confused and misdirected. Yeah, it's all a sinister operation. And what we're seeing now is that the kids are really their mental health has been totally jeopardized by this wokeism kind of social engineering that's gone on now for many years. So we're seeing the aftermath of years of indoctrination and brainwash into thousands and millions of kids now in the West. Thankfully, it hasn't really gone to the East, and maybe that's another reason why they're on the rise and we're on the fall. It's all very much interrelated. So, yeah, kids are confused, and then they have the social media outlets where, many who are sensitive cannot even handle it because the cruelty of the social media and their peers and all of this. It's like many suicides have actually resulted from interaction on the social media. So yeah, we've lost control of a large segment of our younger population that are very confused about the world and particularly about their own psychological mental health and their sexual identity. Yeah, they need all the help in the world. I work with children as a licensed therapist for 27 years. So yeah, I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, well, you're not just a layman there, and it is terrible. I mean, the thought of having in Wales, for example, and there are other places, obviously, but we do know that Wales have a policy that 3 years old you're taught sex education. Yeah. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, Joachim? Everything.
Yeah, we lose our children, and we lose them to the brainwash. Yeah, it's a very serious mental health issue, and it's throughout the West. Yes, it's all over the Western civilization. We have this problem.
Yeah, absolutely dreadful. Pleasure chatting with you. If somebody wants to find out more about yourself or your pet water buffalo, does it fetch still, or you just stand there looking at you?
I have a beautiful lake view here up in the mountains of Badoogle. It's great. You can find all my work at thegovernmentrag.com, jamesjspetcher.org, inteldrop.org. And you can find all my chapter books of the Pedophilia Empire series of books that I expose the high structure that does the pedophilia operations on the earth. And that's pedoempire.org. I'm also on Revolution Radio, and I do a couple of podcasts a week.
Absolutely brilliant. Joachim Hagopian, thank you very much for your time. Pat your water buffalo for me, if you wouldn't mind. And we'll catch you again, same time, same channel next week. This is The World Today.
Emma, did you hear?
Todd's in the hospital.
Who's Todd? He got a collapsed lung from vaping. He thought it was cool.
Not cool.
Promise you won't vape, Emma. It can lead to a lifelong addiction, and we can't be friends if your lungs collapse.
Bogus.
Wacky sitcom teens aren't the best people to talk to your kid about vaping.
Hey, you got a minute?
You are. Start the conversation with your child about vaping today.
A lot of my friends told me that I wasn't going to be able to do it. You don't need to start out with a teenager because they've had all these things that they've gone through.
Could we give him the things he needed to be a successful adult?
What parent isn't worried about, what am I not doing right? What am I not doing enough?
That's my son.
My dad showcased a sense of love that I never had before.
I had a rough time, but I saw that even though the way I was acting, they didn't push me away.
She says that we're her heroes, but she's also mine.
I've had 3 other mother figures in my life, but only one of them has taught me how a mother loves.
How you guys raised me is absolutely amazing, and I really, really appreciate that.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
If you don't have a smoke alarm in your bedroom, by the time a fire burns through your door to activate your smoke alarm, it will be too late. Install smoke alarms in your bedrooms today.
If you missed your favorite show or interview, visit episodes on our website at theworldtoday.news. Our live shows are also on X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, and Twitch. Now there really is no reason to miss out on anything on theworldtoday.news.
And back again, Dr. Bertie Power is an expert in the comparative study of Islam and Christianity. He lectures on the life of Muhammad, the Qur'an, Hadith, Apologetics, and Christian ministry in Islamic context. Now, Bernie grew up in Sydney, taught in Australia and the UK, and various countries in Asia and the Middle East. Thanks for joining us, Bernie. Can you just tell me, look, there's been much unrest over the years in Yemen, including a civil war. Can you put us in the picture who rules parts of the country and who they represent?
Yeah, well, the territory is disputed in Yemen. So the Houthis, which is the group that you hear mostly about, only control the western part of the country, maybe about a third or a quarter of the land. The other parts, there's transitional council down in the south that is supported by the Saudis and others, and kind of the El Hadi government, the internationally recognised Yemeni government, because the Houthis took over the north after a bit of a revolution. And the east is mostly controlled by jihadist groups. So people like Al Qaeda, they have their camps there, and they control most of that.
So the bombings at the moment and stuff would be in the east. Would that be right?
No, in the west. Sorry. Yeah, so it's the eastern part that's controlled by yeah. So the Al Houthis are a Shia terrorist group. Al Qaeda a Sunni terrorist group. So.
Do you think the bombings are doing anything at all except telling them to duck?
Yeah, probably. The Houthis rely on imports from mainly Iran, but also Russia and China for their weapons, and that's what they're using to blockade the whole of the Red Sea and also the attacks on Israel. And I think anything that kind of upsets them or unsettles them would be beneficial in terms of stopping those things from happening.
Is there any relationship between the parties that govern different parts of the country? So are they still under a collective that is a general consensus in which way they move, or are they all fragmented?
Yeah, they're all at war with each other, and literally at war. So military operations happening between the different groups. So the Houthis are trying to maintain their control in the northwest of the country, the western side of the country, and the other groups are seeking to consolidate themselves down in the south and in the east. They disagree with each other ideologically, religiously. So the Houthis are a majority Shia group, and the others would be majority Sunni.
So do you think that it will ever be peace within the community, or do you think it's just a lost cause and they're going to go on killing each other? Can you tell us about the history? I mean, maybe the history will teach us what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, certainly. The way that Arab countries typically operate is by having a strong man who's in total control, a dictator, if you like, who can keep everybody else under their thumb. And for the 40 years or so, Ali Abdullah Saleh was that. He was the president of Yemen, and he was able to combine the north and the south together by pretty kind of rigorous and restrictive means. And people responded to that because they like a strong leader, and he provided that, even though they may disagree with his methods. But eventually, when the Arab Spring movement came and there was an uprising, the Houthis in the north, who are a Shia minority, rose up and used that as their opportunity to invade the western part of the country and establish their control there. Al Qaeda won't give up the areas that they've got, and then we've got this the so-called internationally recognised government, which only controls very small parts of the land. And it's hard to see these three groups coming together in a way unless one of them or two of them give way and allow the other one to be that kind of strong man who will rule the rest of them.
So with the bombing from Israel and even from the US at times, will it achieve anything?
Yep, I think it does. One of the things that people say, well, you can't defeat an ideology by a military rule. It's true. Nazism was destroyed in the Second World War when but the ideology exists today. And I think with ideology, and the Houthis are very radical. Their slogan is, God is great, Allah Akbar, death to America, death to Israel, curse on the Jews, and victory to Islam. And so they have this sense that Islam is something that will rule over the world, and that will only happen through the destruction of America and the Jews. And so those hold together. So there's no sense in which they're going to pick up that ideology. And yet at the same time, you can limit them militarily. I think that's important, but also even socially and economically. We're seeing that, say, with the Taliban in Afghanistan, where they're in terrible state at the moment with the natural disasters that are happening there. And that may make them at least modify or compromise in some way and make physical activity.
Yeah, you dropped out then, so we missed most of what you said. What we might do is just push a couple of buttons here. We have a bit of time. I just want to go to a commercial break, if you don't mind. Come back because I actually want to find out what you said. You just disappeared into the ether. So hang in there, Bertie. We'll come back to you in 1 second. This is The World Today.
Makers are facing more travel.
When we're on the go, it's easy to go into our own world. Keep your mind on the road.
Our beautiful world is changing, withering, dying by the hands of those who don't value nature, even though we all depend on it for life itself. But there is hope. Together with caring friends, the Nature Conservancy can restore our lands, heal our waters, and save our wildlife with big solutions only nature can provide. But every day we lose more of the places we love, and we urgently need to save endangered lands, waters, and wild species. The actions we take today will determine the tomorrow we leave to our children and grandchildren. The water they drink, the air they breathe, the beauty they experience. To learn more about how you can help protect and conserve our beautiful world, visit nature.org today.
Asthma is a growing problem, especially among children. Asthma affects the quality of life for millions like me every single day. My name is Chris Draft, and I have asthma. And I've spent more than a decade in the NFL tackling asthma on and off the field. Join me in the EPA in helping people control their asthma. Asthma is a lung condition that can be controlled through medication and by avoiding things that can make it worse. 3 steps are the solution to controlling asthma. Step 1, talk to a doctor. Step 2, make a plan. And step 3, get rid of things that can make it worse. Asthma can be tackled. For more information on asthma, log on to epa.gov/asthma.
We're today's News Talk, The World Today.
It's early evening in Lochgelly, and as many as 100 young people gathered in the park. Some of the local residents see the young people as a problem, and while many people simply avoid the park on Friday evening, the Salvation Army has been taking a different approach.
Some young people are out on the street because they don't feel safe at home, or they may have parents that are working all the time and they're home alone a lot.
Hello, how are you? Good.
We see so many young people in crisis. We see so many young people turn into alcohol and drugs, and it's because there's not enough support.
We come and shower today for something to do with our friends.
They like to have a laugh, they like to joke around.
Are you okay? Be careful.
And the conversations that we have surrounding school and family, alcohol, drug use, can then go on to, okay, so how can we support you?
Throughout the UK and Ireland, the Salvation Army has been recruiting and training detached youth workers. But youth workers and the resources they need are scarce. Local authority funding has been drastically cut in recent decades, and spending on young people's services is only a quarter of what it was at its peak. All this shows the importance of the Salvation Army's work.
She won't tell anyone because she'll forget in like 2 seconds.
Our aims are to build relationships, to get to know young people, to be a constant in their lives, to be a safe adult, because not all young people have a safe adult.
It's not what we're here for, it's actually...
So if we can be that constant in their lives, during the ups, during the downs of their lives. That's a major thing.
Telling it as it is. Today's News Talk. The World Today.
And we're back again. We're just waiting for Bernie to come back. I think he's probably been kidnapped by the Houthis. I certainly hope not. But we did have a bad internet connection. Thank you, NBN. A dreadful, just dreadful. Cam goes on about it every day, but I do agree with it. But it's just terrible with the internet at the moment. So we're just waiting on Bernie to come back and keep talking about the Houthis, which is a pretty interesting place. I mean, Trump was calling them courageous a few months ago. Now they're not courageous. They're very bad people. Well, parts of it are very bad. Here's Bernie back again. Bernie, thanks for coming back to us. We thought you run off with the Houthis or been kidnapped. Hey, I asked you a question before and you sort of dropped out. Do you have just a summary on the three areas? Because Donald Trump called them courageous. That was prior to bombing the crap out of them. And when they take out, I think it was the leader of the Houthis. Really, it's not the leader of the Houthis. It's just a leader of one group of the Houthis. So if you wouldn't mind, because we do have a better connection now, so we can actually hear you, can you just fill us in on what you were saying before, and just so that we can make note of this, please?
Yeah. So the Houthis are an organisation which has been around for a long time. They're actually a tribe within Yemen, and as a political organisation, they have the slogan "God is great, death to America, death to Israel, curse on the Jews, and victory to Islam." And so those 5 statements will be written up on their flag and proclaimed at all of their meetings. So they are an Islamic supremacist organisation, and they are not going to, they won't be destroyed solely by military action, but I think military action is an important part. And I use the example of the Nazis during the Second World War. The defeat of the German army didn't mean the end of the ideology, because it's still with us now, but it certainly does put a stop to it and a limit to it. And you mentioned about the guy that they killed, Ahmed Rawahi, and 4 other ministers were also killed, along with 7 other high officials. But they didn't get the head. Ahmed al-Houthi is the leader of the al-Houthi movement. Al-Rawahi is simply the political leader, the kind of the head in parliament, the prime minister. And Netanyahu has said we're going to go after the rest of them. So we expect to see more action happening in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, on dfat.gov.au, actually, there's just here it says, which I think needs to be updated, Australia has a limited but friendly bilateral relationship with Yemen. I think that would possibly be quite wrong. Would you agree?
Yes, and they're probably talking about what's called the officially recognised government of Yemen, which is the El Hadi, they call it the Transitional Council, down in the south, and they only control Aden. It'd be a bit like if all of Australia was overrun by another group and only Canberra was not recognising them as the official government of Australia. They don't really control anything. So Australia has relationships with this transitional council, but not with the Houthis. They've designated them as a terrorist organisation.
What's Israel's objectives in Yemen?
Yeah, so there's been about 15 attacks from Israel going into Israel, and that's been in response to the al-Houthi rocket attacks in Israel. So they've sent over dozens of rockets, and they hit Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv and had it closed down for a few days. They've killed 2 people, about 180 wounded. So their defences are actually getting through the Israeli Iron Dome system, which is a bit of a concern. And so I think that's why they're continuing to bombard them, and they want to completely destroy their military capabilities.
What about the interest of the US in Yemen?
Yeah, so Donald Trump is playing an interesting game. So 6 days after he got into power, he started a big military campaign against them with the help of the British. And in fact, Australia got involved in part of the patrolling of the Red Sea. We haven't sent any ships, but we've sent some naval personnel. And he basically, I think, Benjamin Netanyahu got into his ear and said, these guys are dangerous. And so Trump did that, and big operation, but reasonably minimal impact. They thought this would stop the attacks on the Red Sea, but it hasn't. The Houthis have continued on. And then on the 6th of May, surprisingly, with the help of Oman as intermediaries, they signed a ceasefire with the Houthis. So America and the Houthis agreed not to engage each other. The Houthis said we won't bomb American ships on the Red Sea, and the America said, well, we're not going to send more bombs in your direction. And that's when Israel pushed up its military operations. And I think it's probably Trump playing for his Nobel Peace Prize, saying that, I've made peace between all of these groups and I've signed ceasefires, and in the hope of that. But I don't think he understands who he's playing with here.
No, I don't think so either. And you do, though, because you lived in Yemen. Just quickly tell us, how was it? And did you feel in danger at all?
Yeah. So we lived there for 8 years, from 98 to 2006. I was working as a teacher.
Long time.
A long time, yeah, that's right. And actually, we enjoyed the experience of living there, but it was a time of danger. We were working with a Christian organisation, and during the time, 18, and since then, 18 of our co-workers were killed by militant Islamists, who were then prosecuted by the government, which was under Ali Abdullah Saleh at that time. But there was a kind of a threat that was happening there. But many more, thousands of people got killed in civil violence. There'd be a bombing at a mosque almost every month. You're driving down between cities, there'd be military checkpoints. Most people were armed, so Yemenis typically would have a curved knife called a jambia. In their front, you see those when you watch it. They often have a pistol tucked in the back of their trousers and an AK-47 over their shoulder. So a very highly armed population. But surprisingly, I think because the government kept pretty tight control, it didn't break into all-out civil war. The tribes, it's a tribal system, and so tribes often have kind of grievances dating back centuries, and so they'll hate each other and take the opportunity to kill each other, and that happened from time to time, but the government typically would move in. But then also Al-Qaeda was operating, and one of my sons traveling around in the south got picked up by some people that he thought were Al-Qaeda operatives, but because he spoke Arabic and seemed like a nice guy, he managed to get away. So so it was a bit like the Wild West. You really never knew what was going to come your way, and who you would meet and what would happen. But you kind of get used to it and you operate in that system. But it's still not. In fact, I met the Australian ambassador to Saudi. He said, "Look, if we had our way, there'd be no Australians living in Yemen. That's too risky." So, and that's got even worse now. Now there are very few. I don't know if you saw the UN headquarters were in Yemen were attacked 2 days after the Israeli attack, claiming that they were all spies working for Israel, and they've kept a hold of them still in prison since then.
Just thinking, what do you see the future for Yemen?
It's really sad. There was a time like the North and the South were separated and they were brought together, and typically because one group gets more power than the other, and they kind of, secede their power to that group. But there's always kind of rumblings underneath. And when the Houthis came in, that gave the South an opportunity to secede from them, and also the East. And it's really difficult to see how they can be brought back together as a united nation again. But it will require a really strong, probably ruthless leader who's able to beat the others into submission and form a nation based on that.
It's actually it's very sad. But the world is got a lot of conflict at the moment, and it seems to be a conflict between Islam and the West. And yet we see the governments of the West, they lean towards Islam and not a whole lot towards Christianity. Dr. Bertie Powell, Islam and Christian Muslim relations lecturer at Melbourne School of Theology. Thank you very much for your time, sir. And we must do more of these. Get your thoughts on some of the activities that are happening in the Middle East. This is The World Today.